In the cold silence of deep space, a weak signal moved through the stars. It was old, broken, and full of fear. No one knew where it came from at first. The message was not loud. It was not strong. But it cried for help. A simple voice, tired and scared, spoke in a strange alien language. Computers across the galaxy ignored it. Most powerful empires didn't care. They heard the message, but they turned away. One small planet heard it, and did not turn away. Earth. Humans had not been seen in galactic affairs for a long time. They stayed quiet. They stayed far. Long ago, other alien species learned not to bother them. People said humans came from a death world, a place full of danger, pain, and endless struggle. Everything on Earth was built to kill or survive. No one understood how humans could grow from such a place, but they did, and they became strong. When the signal from the Valari reached human space, it was almost lost. An old satellite picked it up. It was weak, full of static, but it carried a message that changed everything. Please, someone, help us. They are killing everything. The Valari were a peaceful race, gentle and kind. Their world was full of light and music, oceans and forests. They had never built warships. They had never hurt anyone, but now they were being destroyed. The attackers were called the Zarkon Dominion, a brutal empire. They took planets. They crushed armies. They gave no warnings and showed no mercy. The Valari begged for help, but no one came. The rest of the galaxy was afraid. No one wanted to fight the Zarkon. No one, except the humans. On Earth, a meeting was called in a dark room deep underground. Generals, scientists, and leaders stood around a glowing table. The message from the Valari played again. Silence followed. They are not our allies, one voice said. They are not our enemies either, another replied. The human commander stood slowly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. It doesn't matter, we heard the cry and now we answer it. Across Earth's hidden bases, alarms sounded. Old warships were pulled from deep hangars. New weapons were loaded. Thousands of soldiers, prepared for something they hadn't done in years. They didn't cheer. They didn't shout. They moved like they had done this before. Cold, quiet, focused. In space, the first human ship left orbit. It was black as night, covered in armor and shaped like a hunter. Behind it, more ships followed, big and small, each one ready to fight. The galaxy watched. In hidden chambers on alien worlds, leaders whispered, "The deathworlders are moving." They heard the cry for mercy. They answered it. No one knew what the humans would do. No one ever did. Stories about them were strange. Some said humans had fought wars that lasted only hours. Others said they had turned entire moons into weapons. Some believed they were monsters. Some believed they were heroes. But all agreed on one thing. Humans were dangerous. Back on Valari, the skies burned. Cities were falling. Families were running. The Zarkon showed no pity. Valari children hid in caves. Their parents cried, not knowing if anyone would come. In the distance, old scientists at the Valari Space Center watched the sky. Their machines were broken, their power almost gone. But then a small red light blinked. One of the scientists leaned forward, his hands shook. "It's them," he whispered. "Who?" another asked. The old man smiled. "The humans." Far above the planet, the stars shifted. A new light appeared in the sky. Not a star. Not a comet. Something else. Something powerful. The first human ship had arrived. It did not send a greeting. It did not ask for peace. It simply scanned the battlefield, locked onto the Zarkon ships, and opened fire. A blast of blue energy ripped through the black space. One Zarkon cruiser exploded, then another. The humans did not wait. They moved fast, like wolves, like fire, like death. On the ground, Valari people looked up. their mouths opened in shock, their eyes full of hope and fear. For the first time in weeks, the Zarkon ships were not chasing them. They were running. A mother held her child close. "What are they?" the child asked. The mother watched as another Zarkon ship exploded in the sky. "They're the ones who hurt us," she said. "And they're not afraid." The humans had come, and everything was about to change. All across the galaxy, a message spread like wildfire. Humans had returned, not as traders, not as explorers, but as warriors. The Zarkon Dominion had ruled with fear for over 100 years. They crushed weak planets. They silenced those who spoke against them. No one dared to fight back, no one, until now. When humans attacked the first Zarkon fleet near Valari, many aliens believed it was a mistake. Some laughed. Others waited to see what would happen. But when 3 full Zarkon squadrons were destroyed in under an hour, the laughter stopped. The galaxy remembered who humans were. In the Great Council of Races, powerful leaders from many alien worlds gathered. The chamber was high above a gas giant, floating in a clear bubble of steel and glass. Thousands of eyes turned to a large screen showing human warships flying through the stars. "We must stop them," a tall, green-skinned ambassador said. "The deathworlders will bring chaos," an insect-like alien hissed. "Let the Zarkon and humans destroy each other. Then we take what is left." A voice from the shadows spoke calmly. "Do not be fools. Humans are not wild animals. They are storms with purpose. If they are coming for a reason." Back on Earth, the largest military base known as Black Ridge Command was awake after years of silence. Inside, old halls filled with soldiers. Engineers worked without rest. Tanks, drones, and ships were prepared. The air smelled of oil, smoke, and war. In one quiet room, a young soldier named Mason looked at a picture of his family. He hadn't seen them in years, not since the last border war. "Why do you think we're helping aliens?" his friend asked. Mason smiled sadly. "Because if we were the ones screaming for help, I'd want someone to answer." Far above them, in orbit, human ships waited in silence. They didn't flash lights. They didn't send signals. The galaxy thought they were slow and primitive. They were wrong. The humans were quiet because they were planning, watching, learning. They had studied the Zarkon's tactics, their formations, their weaknesses. Now they were ready. Meanwhile, on a damaged Zarkon warship, a captain growled in anger. "Who are these Earth creatures? Their weapons are old. Their ships are simple." An officer replied, fear in his voice. "But they fight like demons. They do not run. They do not stop." The captain slammed his fist on the control panel. "Then we show them who rules this galaxy." He was brave, but he was also wrong. The next battle began near a broken moon. The Zarkon sent 10 warships. The humans sent 5. Everyone thought the humans would lose. Instead, they surrounded the enemy, not with numbers, but with speed, precision, and fury. Human. Drones zipped through the darkness like angry hornets. Their cannons struck weak points. Zarkon shields failed. Missiles fell from above like falling stars. The battle ended in 20 minutes. The Zarkon lost everything. The message was clear. Earth had teeth. Back on Valari, hope returned. The skies were quieter now. Human medics helped the wounded. Engineers fixed broken buildings. A Valari elder watched them and whispered, "They came for war, but they also bring healing." The children followed the humans, wide-eyed and curious. They didn't understand war, but they saw the strength in the soldiers. Not cruel strength. Not the cold evil of the Zarkon. Something different. The humans didn't speak much. They worked. They protected. They gave food and water. And when they looked at the stars, their faces were serious, because this wasn't over. In the command center, General Ayla Trent stood in front of a giant map. Red dots showed Zarkon bases. Blue lights showed human ships. "We're not just saving Valari," she said to her officers. "We're sending a message." One officer raised his hand. "To who?" The general's eyes narrowed. To everyone who thinks kindness is weakness, to everyone who thinks mercy is foolish, we heard the cry for help, and now we are the answer. The room was silent. Then a soft voice said, "So what do we do next?" The general pressed a button. New red dot appeared deep inside Zarkon space. A major shipyard. A fortress. Heavily protected. General Ayla smiled. Cold. Calm. We hit them where it hurts. In the dark skies of the galaxy, something had changed. The humans were awake. Not as prey. Not as victims, but as the answer to fear itself, and the stars would never be the same again. The Zarkon Dominion was not afraid of anyone. For more than 100 years they crushed every planet that resisted. They believed fear was power, mercy was weakness. And they thought humans were just another weak race with outdated ships and soft hearts. They were wrong. Near the edge of Valari space, the Zarkon sent a new fleet. This one was larger. 10 warships, 3 carriers, and hundreds of fighters. Their leader, Commander Vrax, stood proudly on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars. "Earth ships are old," he said with a smirk. "They cannot match our speed or firepower. We will wipe them out." But far beyond the Zarkon scanners, hidden in the shadows of space, human ships were waiting. They were not glowing or sending signals. They were dark, silent, and watching, like hunters. Aboard the human ship Iron Will, Captain Serena Holt looked at the screen. Red dots showed Zarkon ships moving in formation. Calmly, she gave the order. "We begin." Within seconds, human ships moved. Not like normal fleets, but like wolves. Fast, sharp, and without fear. Drones spread out first, small, quiet, and deadly. They circled the Zarkon fleet without being noticed. Then, the first strike came. A flash of blue light cut through space. One of the Zarkon carriers exploded instantly, hit by a powerful railgun blast. No warning, no time to react. Fire burst across the stars. Commander Vrax jumped to his feet. "Where did that come from?" Before anyone could answer, 5 more human ships appeared, flying fast and low. They didn't move like machines. They moved like predators. Each one hit a target, then vanished into the darkness. The Zarkon fighters tried to respond, but their systems failed. Human jammers had blocked their signals. Confusion spread through the enemy fleet. On the ground below, Valari citizens watched the sky. They saw fire, explosions, bright lights. But this time, it wasn't their cities burning. It was the enemy. Young Valari boy looked up and whispered, "Are those the humans?" His father nodded, eyes wide with wonder. "Yes, and they are not here to lose." In the command room of the Iron Will, Captain Holt kept her voice calm. "Phase 2, surround them. Make them feel what it means to fight humans." The battle grew faster, louder, more deadly. Human drones swarmed the enemy ships. Smart missiles changed direction mid-flight, chasing targets like ghosts. Every time the Zarkon turned to fight, they found nothing but space. And then death. Commander Vrax shouted, "Retreat! We need backup!" But there was no backup coming. No one dared help them. The Zarkon fleet had walked into a trap, and now they were being erased. Aboard one Zarkon ship, a young officer cried out, "They fight like they've done this 1,000 times." An older soldier answered quietly, "That's because they have." One by one, the Zarkon ships fell. Metal burned. Screams filled the radio. The last ship tried to escape, but a human stealth craft appeared above it and dropped a pulse bomb. The screen went dark. Silence returned to the stars. Not the silence of fear, the silence of awe. Captain Holt stood straight. "Status?" "All enemy ships destroyed," her officer said. "0 losses." Holt nodded once. "Message to Earth Command. Sector clear. Valari skies are safe. For now." Far away in the Zarkon capital, news of the loss reached the Emperor. His advisors trembled. No one had seen such a defeat in years. "They used tricks," one advisor said quickly. "They are cowards." The Emperor said nothing. He stared at a screen showing the destroyed fleet. Then he spoke just one word. Humans. Back on Valari, people came out of hiding. They stared at the sky where the battle had been. The smoke was still fading, but the fear was gone. In the middle of the city, a Valari elder stepped forward and raised her hand to the sky. "Thank you," she said softly. "Whoever you are." A human soldier nearby turned to her and smiled. "We heard you." That was enough. Later that night, a quiet message was sent across the stars. From Earth, from Valari, from every planet watching. It said, "They laughed at humans until they saw them fight." The galaxy would remember this day. The day fire rained from the sky, and humans showed what happened when you hurt the wrong people. The stars were quiet again. The battle was over, but the war was not. Humans had won the skies above Valari, but everyone knew this was just the beginning. The Zarkon Dominion would return, stronger, angrier, and this time they would come in full force. Inside a large human ship called Steelheart, soldiers sat in the mess hall. The walls were gray, the lights were dim, the air was heavy, not with fear but with silence. No one laughed, no one cheered. They had won, but their faces were calm, focused, ready. Private Mason looked at the photo in his hand again. His mother, his sister, and a small farm in the hills of Earth. His friend Ramirez sat beside him and broke the silence. "You ever think about why we do this?" Mason didn't answer right away. He just stared at the picture. Then he said softly, "Every night," Ramirez leaned back. "These aliens, they're not us. They don't know Earth, they don't know what we've been through. Why do we risk everything for them?" Before Mason could answer, a voice came from across the room. It was Sergeant Lynn. She was older than most, with scars on her face and eyes that had seen too much. "We don't fight for them," she said. We fight because no one else will." The room went quiet again. High above Valari, General Ayla Trent watched reports on her screen. Zarkon fleets were regrouping. They were planning a counterattack. She knew they would not wait long. She opened a file labeled Operation Emberlight, plans for striking deep into Zarkon space. She paused and looked out the window at the stars. "Why do we fight?" she whispered to herself. And then the memories came. Years ago, Earth had faced its own destruction. Wars, disasters, and endless conflict had almost wiped out humanity. But they survived, because they never gave up. Because when everything was burning, humans stood up. Not because they were strong, not because they were perfect, but because they refused to stay down. Back on the planet, Valari children watched human engineers fixing power lines and water tanks. One girl, no older than 10, walked up to a soldier and tugged on his jacket. "Why do you help us?" she asked. The soldier looked down. His armor was dirty. His face was tired, but his voice was kind. "Because someone helped me once. Now it's my turn." The girl smiled. Then she ran back to her friends. The Valari leaders met with General Trent later that day. They offered gifts, thanks, and promises, but the general stopped them. "We didn't come for rewards," she said. "We came because we heard your cry." One of the Valari elders asked, "But why do your people care?" The rest of the galaxy turned away. Trent nodded slowly. "Because pain is a language we understand. We come from a world that never gave us peace. So when we see others suffering, we remember. Valari historians recorded everything. They wanted to understand humans better. They asked questions about Earth, about its past, about its people. What they learned shocked them. They learned about wars that had destroyed continents, about bombs that could end worlds, about cities built after disasters again and again. They learned that humans didn't just survive. They built beauty out of ruin. And they learned that Earth, the so-called deathworld, had also created music, art, and love like no other planet. Valari students asked, "How can a species be so violent and so kind at the same time?" One human teacher answered, "Because we know what it's like to lose everything. That's why we protect what we can." At night, on the edge of the base, Private Mason stood alone, looking at the stars. He thought about Earth. The people he left behind. The farms, the oceans, the cities full of life. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Ramirez. "They say the Zarkon are planning something big," Ramirez said. Mason nodded. "Let them come." "You really think we can beat them?" Mason smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was calm. "Ready. We've fought worse. On our own planet. In our own hearts." And far away, deep inside Zarkon space, the Emperor sat, in silence, watching videos of the human fleet. His claws scratched the side of his throne. "They fight without fear," he said. "No," his advisor corrected. "They fight with purpose." Across the stars, the galaxy watched in silence. They once feared the Zarkon. Now they feared something else. A species that fought not for power, not for gold, not for glory, but because they remembered pain, and because they would never let others feel it alone. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would soon learn what truly made them strong. The humans had done the impossible. They pushed back the Zarkon fleet. They protected Valari. They gave hope to a galaxy that had almost forgotten what hope felt like. But that was not enough. General Ayla Trent stood in the center of the war room, aboard the HSS Iron Will. A massive map of the galaxy glowed in front of her. Red lines showed Zarkon territory. A flashing mark showed the capital, Zarvok Prime, the heart of the Empire. She pointed at it. "This is where it ends," she said. "We're going to burn the throne." Her officers looked at each other in silence. They knew what it meant. This was not a rescue. This was not defense. This was war, at the enemy's doorstep. Captain Holt stepped forward. "We're outnumbered." "They have the advantage," Trent nodded. "They have numbers. We have purpose." Across Earth's fleet, the order spread. Ships were prepared, ammunition loaded, drones recharged. Messages were sent to every corner of human space. "Strike. Team Ember Light is a go." At the same time, deep inside Zarkon space, the Emperor paced in his throne room. He was furious. The last fleet was gone. His generals were silent. His empire was shaking. The humans were supposed to be weak. They were not. "They will not reach Zarvok Prime," he growled. "They will not survive our fire." The Zarkon began to move their armies. They activated defense stations, charged heavy cannons, and built minefields around their capital. But the humans didn't come straight. They came from the shadows. The first human strike hit a fuel station in Sector 9, no warning, just fire. The second hit a Zarkon communication hub. Silence followed. Then came the third, an ambush on a patrol fleet. The humans disappeared before Zarkon forces could respond. It was not just war. It was fear. Their ghosts. One Zarkon commander cried, "We can't stop what we can't see." And then the humans did something bold. They sent a message. Not hidden, not encoded. Open, clear, for all to hear. To the Zarkon Emperor. "You heard the cry for mercy. You laughed. Now hear our silence, because it means we're already on our way." The galaxy trembled. Back on Earth, people watched the news in silence. Soldiers hugged their families before leaving. Old veterans saluted the new generation. Civilians lit candles for the fallen. And across alien worlds, people cheered. The humans had become more than fighters. They were symbols, beacons of resistance. On the way to Zarvok Prime, the human fleet passed through dangerous territory. Zarkon traps were everywhere. One ship, HSS Vigil, was hit by a mine and badly damaged. Inside, fire spread. Smoke filled the halls. Captain Reza gave the order. "Evacuate, we'll hold them off." He and a few soldiers stayed behind, fighting off enemy drones until the last pod launched. The ship exploded, but the sacrifice saved the mission. When the news reached General Trent, she closed her eyes. "Add them to the list," she said. "Which list?" an officer asked. Trent answered quietly. "The ones who remind us why we fight." At last, The fleet arrived near Zarvok Prime. The planet was dark and massive. Dozens of defense towers pointed at the stars. The throne stood like a monster, covered in steel, glowing with red lights. The final battle was near. Captain Holt looked out at the enemy defenses. "This is suicide." General Trent stepped forward. "Only if we lose. And we're not here to lose." Then, the order was given. Burn the throne. The sky exploded. Human ships charged forward fast and fearless. Fighters zipped between enemy towers. Drones dropped bombs with deadly precision. Zarkon cannons fired wildly, but they couldn't stop the storm. The humans broke through the first line. Then the second. Explosions lit the sky. Smoke covered the stars. Fire rained down on Zarvok Prime. Inside the enemy palace, the Emperor screamed, "Stop them! Kill them!" But it was too late. A stealth team of human soldiers landed near the palace gates. Among them was Mason. He had made it this far, tired, bruised, angry, focused. They moved fast through the broken halls. Enemy guards rushed to stop them, but the humans didn't stop. They cleared room after room, moving closer to the throne. At last, Mason reached the main hall. The Zarkon Emperor stood there, tall and armored, glowing eyes full of hate. "You are just animals," the Emperor said. Mason raised his weapon. "No," he replied. "We're the answer." A shot rang out, then silence. Outside, the humans raised a new flag where the throne once stood, black, gray, and blue. Not as conquerors, but as protectors. They had come from far. They had lost much, but they had done what no one believed possible. They had burned the throne. The Zarkon throne was gone. Fire had swallowed the palace. The Emperor was dead. For the first time in 100 years, the heart of the Zarkon Empire had fallen. The galaxy watched in silence. No one knew what would happen next. Across Zarkon space, panic spread like wildfire. Commanders no longer followed orders. Fleets turned away. Some warlords tried to take power. Others ran. Without the Emperor, the chain of command broke. The Yao Empire was collapsing. On a dusty world called Varthan, Zarkon soldiers dropped their weapons. The local people had suffered for decades. Now they rose up. The chains were gone. One rebel leader, a tall alien with cracked skin, stood before the Eeyore Zarkon flag and tore it down. "They thought they ruled forever," he said, "but even stone thrones can burn." Meanwhile, the human fleet didn't stop. General Ayla Trent knew the job wasn't done. Victory wasn't just about battle. It was about what came after. She sent messages to nearby systems. "If you want peace, we will stand with you. But if you choose tyranny, we will return." Some planets responded with hope. They had waited for this day. Others hesitated, unsure if humans were saviors or new rulers. On Valari, life slowly returned to normal. Children played again. Markets opened. The fear in the sky was gone. But deep inside the human base, Captain Serena Holt sat with a worried face. "Zarkon is broken," she said to General Trent. "But broken things are sharp, dangerous." Trent nodded. "That's why we don't celebrate yet." News from the outer edges confirmed their fear. Small Zarkon groups had begun forming, their own armies. Rogue fleets attacked innocent planets pretending they still had power. Others began selling weapons and slaves to the black market. The humans had cut off the head, but the pieces were still moving. Private Mason, now a sergeant, led a team to one of these rogue zones. The planet was called Chorus, full of mines and slave camps. The Zarkon warlord there refused to surrender. Mason's team landed in the night, silent, precise. They moved through the jungle, avoiding patrols. When they reached the main base, they saw prisoners, hundreds of them, weak and silent. "They're still doing this," one soldier whispered, shocked. Mason's eyes burned with anger. "Not anymore." At sunrise, the attack began. It was quick. and brutal. Human drones dropped flash bombs. Soldiers broke through the gates. The Zarkon fighters tried to fight back, but they were outmatched. When it was over, the prisoners cried and cheered. "You're free," Mason told them, "and you're not alone." But with each mission, the cost grew. More human soldiers were wounded. Some didn't return, and more often they found villages destroyed before they could arrive. The galaxy was full of smoke, broken pieces and pain. In a council meeting aboard the Iron Will, the human leaders debated. "We can't fight forever," one officer said. "But if we leave now," another warned, "everything we did will fall apart." General Trent stood slowly. Her voice was steady. "War breaks things, but if we don't help rebuild, we're just another empire." And so, the humans began to build. They trained local leaders. They protected weak worlds. They didn't ask for land. They didn't demand tribute. They simply stayed until people could stand on their own. Slowly, word spread. The humans didn't come to conquer. They came to protect. And something strange began to happen. Former enemies joined them. A few Zarkon captains, tired of the bloodshed, laid down their weapons and asked for peace. One Zarkon pilot, badly wounded, looked up at a human medic and asked, "Why are you saving me?" The medic smiled. "Because you're still breathing." The galaxy had never seen anything like this, a species that could destroy worlds, choosing to heal them. But peace was still fragile. In the shadows of deep space, someone watched. A group of powerful beings, richer than empires, older than kings, met in secret. "They are spreading fast," one said. "They are uniting the broken pieces," another warned. "They must be stopped," a third hissed, because not everyone wanted peace. Some grew rich from war, some ruled through fear, and the humans were changing the balance. Back on Earth, General Trent stood in front of a quiet lake, remembering all they had lost. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. Behind her, a message arrived from deep space. A warning, a threat. The final challenge was coming, not from Zarkon, not from rebels, but from something darker. And the humans would need more than weapons. They would need everything they had left: their courage, their unity, and their will to fight for more than just survival. The galaxy had begun to heal. Zarkon was broken. Planets once under its cruel rule were now free. People were rebuilding. Children smiled again. Stars that once burned in fear now shined with hope. But peace never lasts forever. In a hidden part of the galaxy, a secret council gathered. They were not soldiers, they were not rulers, they were something worse, the Silent Order. They controlled trade, war, and shadows. They had stayed hidden for centuries, using fear to keep power. And now, humans were ruining everything. "They are uniting the weak," one of them said. "They are giving hope to the broken," another growled. "They must be stopped," the leader hissed, "before the light spreads too far." The Silent Order activated an ancient weapon lost to time. It was called the Silence Engine, a massive space station built to erase communication, block power, and blind entire fleets. It had one purpose: control, and they turned it on. Across the galaxy, human ships lost contact. Colonies went dark. Drones stopped flying. Bases went silent. General Ayla Trent stood in the war room, eyes locked on the map. Red zones were growing. Signals vanishing. It wasn't an attack with guns, it was something worse. "They're cutting the light," she said. "They want to divide us." On a small human base near the edge of Zarkon space, Sergeant Mason's team lost power. No lights, no messages, no backup. They were alone. He looked around at his squad. "No help is coming. That means we help each other." They grabbed old tools, flashlights, and began defending the base the old way, human way. Meanwhile, General Trent made a choice. "If they want silence," she said, "we'll answer with noise." A small team of the best pilots and engineers, launched in stealth ships, Their mission: destroy the silence engine before the galaxy went completely dark. They didn't know where it was, not exactly. But they followed the trail, burned out satellites, jammed signals, ruined systems. And finally they found it, floating near a dead star, cold and giant, the silence engine. The human team approached carefully. Every second was dangerous. No power meant no shields. No shields meant one wrong move. And death. Inside the station, the silent order watched them come. They still fight, one said in disbelief. They should be broken by now, another hissed. But that was their mistake. Humans didn't break. They bent. They burned. But they always came back. The strike team landed on the engine's surface, explosives in hand, guns ready. Time was short. Sergeant Mason, who had joined the team halfway, looked at the wires and machines. "This place is built to kill hope," he said. "Then let's blow it sky high," his teammate replied. Guards poured out. Not Zarkon, not soldiers. Machines, cold, fast, deadly. But humans fought back with everything they had. Each hallway was a battle. Each second, a risk. But the humans pushed forward. One by one, they planted charges. One by one, they fell back. And finally, Mason reached the core. He stared at it. Huge, glowing, pulsing with stolen energy. "This is for every cry you silenced," he said. And he pressed the button. The explosion was massive. The silence engine shattered. Waves of light returned across the galaxy. Ships came back online, messages poured in. Hope returned like a rising sun. At base command, General Trent watched the screens light up again. She smiled for the first time in days. "They did it," she whispered. From Earth to Valari, from old battlefields to new cities, the galaxy saw what happened. The humans had faced monsters, empires, and now the shadows themselves. And still, they stood tall. People began saying a new name. The deathworlders, not out of fear, but out of respect. They were the ones who answered the cry, the ones who fought when no one else would, the ones who reminded the stars what courage looked like. And slowly, something beautiful happened. Old enemies became allies. New leaders rose. Peace talks began. And humans didn't lead them with force, but with example. In a quiet speech on Valari, General Trent spoke. "We are not perfect. We come from a world that taught us pain. But it also taught us how to heal. We didn't come to rule. We came to remind you, you are not alone." The galaxy changed after that. Not because humans had the best weapons, but because they had the strongest hearts. And somewhere, in a small corner of the universe, a child looked up at the stars and asked, "Will the humans come if we ever need help?" The elder beside her smiled. They already did.